Okay, well, welcome to the Partner Showcase. My idea for this showcase started from actually a place of a problem. I didn't know how to truly thank my community for their work around the ACEs and Resilience movement. And you know how hard it is to try to start to thank one person and then you miss another? And I also couldn't figure out how to really represent the range of work going on. Because while the work, for example, that Jim and his staff at Lincoln pulled together is very well known now through Paper Tigers, there are many other Paper Tiger stories underway, just like I know there are in your community. The other development that probably is about a 2-month development for us is thinking about the heart of the matter. When we really want to describe what is this movement about, we settled on that language. What is the heart of the matter? And so we asked members of our Children's Resilience Initiative, what does this work mean to you? If you had to describe it, what is the heart of the work to you? Look at those words up there. We really felt that it started to expand the way we want to talk about this movement. It's not just knowing the ACE study or knowing the impact of disrupted neurodevelopment. It's looking at this language that you see represented in that word cloud. So without further ado, I want to introduce the 14 sectors to you. And again, bear in mind that they were each asked to talk to us from that sector representation. What does this work mean to you?
Terry came out with this resilience program. It really helped start looking at that child. I remember seeing a video, and it just kind of turned the light on for all of us, was that a child screaming, yelling, coming into the classroom. And after this training that we received, you know, the child is still yelling and screaming, but yet we look at that child in a different way. We look at that child as what's going on with this child? What can we do to help? And so we really looked at that. When we talk about social and emotional, we talk about, it goes hand in hand. It's not something that we can build. It's something that we need to start at an early learning age. And like I said, thanks to the Trauma Smart, and you guys attending this conference is really going to help those educators at that young age build those skills so they can go hand in hand with that. In early learning, we do provide that professional support. We really want to make sure we're equipping our teachers with that support and that leadership that they need to deal with the children, so we don't have to pay for that cost later on when they're in school. It's so much better to build those skills at a younger age. And the key to this is having that parent involvement, having those parents involved in the whole step of the way. And that's one of the things that we like about our programs, and what they really taught us is to make sure those parents are involved in the whole step, because there's nothing we can do if the parents aren't working with their children at home and building and knowing those behaviors, those feelings that they're having with that. So I want to thank you guys for attending, and thanks Terry for really having us being involved in that Trauma Smart Walla Walla.
How can we help our students and give them hope before it's too late and the school year is over? This is what I've discovered, and this is the heart of my teaching. Teenagers in general are at risk, but we provide them with tools, knowledge, and practice. We care for each other and learn each day. After attending CRI's training, I started to discuss the Kaiser Permanente study from the mid-1990s with my 15-year-old students. They looked at the data that shows how many people were impacted by devastating childhood experiences, we call them ACEs, that frequently lead to risky behaviors, diseases, and early death. They understood that people's basic needs must be met, and they learned about abuse and neglect shaping people's lives. Finally, we talked about how they could overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles. And you know what? My students wanted to know more about how they could overcome ACEs and help others. You see, all of the years before I shared this information with them, I was trying to help them. But now it's not just me trying to help my students. They are starting to help each other. Instead of avoiding subjects that still seem taboo in 2016, like abuse and neglect. I share this information with my students and provide them with emotional support and mindfulness strategies that help them to deal with the experiences that are their normal. Relaxation music in my classroom? Yes. Incorporating exercise into our daily routine? Absolutely. Daily or weekly check-ins with a counselor, the school nurse, an assistant principal, the teacher, or our intervention specialist? No problem. We are forming a network to support students' needs and help them to be healthy and learn. This spring, 2 people from Trilogy, a local group that supports youth who are struggling with drug and alcohol addiction in their families, worked with my students and helped them understand stress and effective coping strategies. Now we are all more aware and we're actively seeking ways to work through experiences that have majorly negative impacts on many people's lives. Finally, we talk about a future that is not so distant. The fact that someday soon, they will be parents who can use these tools to help their own children grow up in a stronger, more stable household with less abuse and neglect. My students will make a better life. They are ready. The future is here.
So when Terry asked me what the heart of the matter is for me, it's twofold. On the one hand, it's trying to intervene with these infants before they grow up to be the children that are struggling in grade school and high school and beyond. And on the other side is how this has changed my teaching of my undergraduates. Because now, in every class that I teach, my undergraduates are exposed to the language of ACEs and resilience. And so as I work with the next generation of educators, they are familiar with these concepts, and they will bring that into their work as they join you all. And that is the heart of the matter for me. Thank you.
Outstanding.
Barilla, my friend, does not have a powerful title, nor does she have a big budget, but she has an incredible grasp of influence and has used it to change our town. See, Terry bumps into somebody she knows, she mentions a project, she highlights a shared interest, she gives credit to someone else, she mentions a meeting or an event and suggests your involvement, and then gets the expectation for follow-up. And goodness only knows how many of those encounters she has in a week, but she always remembers to send the email or to call with the details, forward the link, the invitation, or drops by the article or the flyer. That's how I got to Dr. Anda's talk. And it really grabbed me. I immediately printed out the PowerPoint and started sharing graphs and slides and statistics with everyone who would listen. When the topic of ACEs next came up, it caught those people's attention. Terry challenged me to identify the barriers to moving this work farther in CA. She's never satisfied. And that led to a new discovery. The barrier was, I think, for us, compassion fatigue. So she talked to me about reading the book Trauma Stewardship. That grabbed me, so I read it, purchased it, read it again, loaned it, use it in supervision all the time. We realized that in order to have trauma-informed practice, we also needed to have trauma-informed self-care in order to not only sustain our careers, but actually increase our compassion. So now, at Children's Services, our team looks at things a little differently. We used to focus on behavior rather than state of mind. We're more aware now of brain states, our own and anybody else's, and respond more effectively, like, you know, she sounds like she's in her brainstem. Don't try to reason with her until you can help her to calm. That sort of thing. We pay more attention to emotional regulation, ours and other people's. And we talk about ways to calm ourselves and our clients. Whew, I got pretty frustrated with that, Dad. I'm gonna need to just take a break and call him back right away. I don't know what got me so triggered. That's a different kind of language than we used to hear. We use different language to speak differently to frustrated foster parents. That child's really acting out. He's tearing up everything and keeps hitting the dog. And we talk about how that does kind of make sense given what that child's been through. How can we support you in giving him a steady, predictable response? And we're glad that this is spreading. We refer more services to our providers who have this ACEs and resilience understanding. Just last month, Terry's PowerPoint module for caregivers was shared with our licensing division and was well received. So then we shared it with the Alliance, which is our agency-wide training contractor, and got them interested. Together with licensing, we've requested that it be reviewed for official statewide caregiver training. Just another ripple.
Thank you. Thank you, Sonia.
And a final entreaty to those who believe spare the rod and spoil the child means to always use physical punishment. The shepherd did not beat the sheep, but rather guided them. To a person physically abused in the past, physical punishment inappropriate to their situation can explosively spiral out of control. Explosive behavior. Add yet another psychotropic medication to their list of medications, or use the trauma and resilient tools we now have available. Which will we choose?
Outstanding. Thank you.
So the heart of the work for ACASA is the child's story. We learn that story by walking with them through the process of hurts and of dreams for their future. As a CASA, I have walked hours with children, figuratively and otherwise, around the block 100 times while a child processes another rejection, or along a park and stream while the child confesses to me amazingly articulate dreams for what their parent can do to change so they can go home. I've walked with children from their classroom to their reading room to watch how hard it is for a kid to learn to read when their brain has been soaked in toxic stuff since they were very, very young. It's very, very hard to be a foster child. And all I can say is that occasionally we have these moments where a child recognizes the value of their relationship. I have one boy right now who's 13. And like I said, when they're 12, they don't usually get a CASA because we don't have enough CASAs, and there's just so many kids coming in through poor Sonia's doors wanging open all the time. And so they make a decision that at 13, the child gets an attorney and not a CASA. I was assigned to this little boy's sister, and I was so compelled by his story that I sought to be his CASA. I asked him, may I be your CASA? And I asked the judge, and the judge appointed me. And he's an amazing kid. I don't know where he gets the resilience, but he has it. And this last Mother's Day, this 13-year-old boy made me a handmade card and sent it to me and said, thank you for wanting to get to know me and to bond with me. So for me, that really is the heart of the work.
Hi. The heart of the matter for me is being able to provide holistic care. Throughout my training, I was given technical and medical tools and knowledge, but that didn't teach me how to give good care. When I first came across this set of information sets, this set of concepts, it finally dawned on me that seeing 30 kids a day, fixing ear infections, boo-boos, and measuring their head circumferences was not enough. How can we work together to provide holistic care? How can I exercise the charge that I was given upon leaving my program, my pediatric residency, to provide optimal care and to seek to help these children achieve their potential? That is the heart of the matter to me. And I welcome everyone in this room to seek out their own pediatricians and medical professionals and ask them what their thoughts are on the matter. and to work together with them. Pick up the phone and call them. And tell them about the children and families that you serve. And tell them what you think they need. Because I assure you, most pediatricians in this country are still working as hard as they can and doing the best they can. But they're doing it in silos, right? They don't have all of the input and knowledge that you have, which is extremely important to the welfare and well-being of their kids. So that is the heart of the matter to me. Let's face it, the ear infection will heal, right? The kids will end up doing fine by and large. It's their psychological, emotional, and security needs that we have to put at the forefront. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, our next sector is city government, and I have a police department official. This is Kevin Brayman. He is currently a patrol sergeant, but he has a history that links back to Lincoln High School. He was a resource officer for there for 4 years. Was it 4 years? 3 years. Unfortunately, he got promoted to patrol sergeant, so Lincoln lost him. But my favorite story of Kevin was when he was leaving Lincoln, and he said that his time at Lincoln with the Lincoln staff and kids taught him how to walk the streets differently with this information. So
With the help
Kevin
of
Brayman.
Terry and Mark Brown, we trained all of our police officers about ACEs and about resilience. We also took the training to the sheriff's department and trained all of their deputies as well. And then, as a patrol sergeant, one of my duties is to mentor and guide our new officers as they become employed at the department and as they learn to be police officers. And with that responsibility, I feel it's my place to teach them about ACEs, to teach them about resilience, and what that means for a cop on a daily basis or even weekly basis. Because when you run across a kid that has struggles in the community or he's downtown all the time, you make that one-on-one connection with him, and you can really, I think you can make a difference. And this goes on, and I can give some examples too. My time at Lincoln, I had a lot of time there one-on-one with kids, and even today I see them in the community. They're starting families of their own, they have careers of their own, and we still talk, and it's still a connection that I have with them and a piece of resilience. And I'm just one piece of the puzzle. The school, the administrators, the teachers, they were all a big part of that as well. So the heart of the matter to me, as I move forward in my career, is teaching the other officers that I work alongside how to be compassionate towards these kids on a regular basis, how to offer a little piece of resilience and maybe make a difference. And just getting the whole department to buy in on that. It's not an easy career. Our officers deal with the same 5 to 10% of the public all the time, and they become frustrated. They maybe, after 20 or 30 years, they get a little overwhelmed with the same problem over and over again, and so having patience and having compassion for those people is not always easy. And having this extra piece of knowledge and this extra training that we provide to them, I think it really makes a difference.
And so trauma-informed has really been able to give us an opportunity to really utilize a different language and come at what we felt and we knew in the spirit in which we were trying to work is the right way to work. And so, as many of you probably would guess, our labor force is primarily immigrants, most coming from Mexico, most coming out of poverty, which pushed them up to this country. We see them as economic refugees, but they themselves are also working through the trauma of poverty and whatever else might have happened to them in the course of getting to us. And so, and then I guess what I would share is that we have a number of different ministries, some of which have been the elementary school that we created, as well as a daycare. And they were really sort of the touchstones of which we really sort of started linking into the trauma-informed conversation. We've had great partners coming to us and actually teaching our staff in the elementary schools. a little bit about this, and it came to stand to reason, not only from the business perspective we were coming from and trying to develop our own people and develop our own leaders so we could be a better business, but we were dealing with trauma on the other end in terms of what our school teachers were seeing in the classroom, and realizing that oftentimes that the very employees that were working with us were oftentimes perhaps part of the problem that people were seeing in the classroom. And so from these two missional standpoints, we really saw this as sort of the real cause for which we needed to start employing the trauma-informed work.
Friends was born in 1999, so now it's 16 years old. We have some kids in our program who are 16 and 17 years old. We also have some kids who are in kindergarten. The first friend, really one of the first friends, came from a farm labor camp in Milton Freewater. He later became president of the community council. His name is Roger Esparza. The person that started Friends was Doug Barham, who went door to door in what they would call the underprivileged area of town and found Roger selling cigarettes when he was 7 years old, door to door, for gang members. Roger's a good friend of mine. But I have to tell you where my story comes from is when I got here, I didn't know anything about Friends. I didn't even think of myself as a mentor. But once I got into Friends, I realized that I've been a mentor for 19 years prior to this with my stepchildren and their children who were all involved in the drug culture in Phoenix and got out of it. And they got out of it because they had a mentor and mentors that helped them along the way. We have a lot of kids in need of mentors, in need of that one positive consistency that we supply. And we found that the kids like to hide things. We have a teacher at Davis School, which is where our ABC program, which is a school-based program, who told us that kids hide things. You don't really know what's going on. They're quiet some days, and they're just, whoa, next days. And it's really kind of interesting when we have mentors that go in and wonder, why am I here? This kid is just like crazy. This is really nice, and they're jumping around and things like that. And we remind them that this is probably the only time during the week where they get to do that, and they get somebody to listen to them, and they get somebody to give them worth and listen to their dreams and so forth, so on. So
a lot of positive things started happening in my life after I learned about the ACEs, and I had formed my village, which means that positive people all came around me and surrounded me, which was about 70 people are in my village. And so through their contact, I was able to become a homeowner 7 years ago. And when I received my home on an interest-free loan, my son gave me my care package.
I'm in class with this little boy, and I get second grade, and we were doing writing prompts for journals. And this little boy, I don't know anything about him because this is not my role. I just decided to take this job in the summer to work on these practices so I can be a better coach. And this little boy didn't want to write, and he starts to dysregulate, and I'm like, oh goody, we can practice. And then he starts to fall apart, and I was looking at him going, well, you know, trying to brainstorm and things like that, and he goes, I don't have a mom, and I don't have a dad, and I don't know where to start. And I stopped, and I said, that's not right. Let's not write. Let's just talk. And at that moment, I realized this is why I'm an educator. This is why I have a different lens. This is why I'm reformed in my practices. I'm a reformed parent. I'm going. Put your hands down. I'm a reformed parent. I am a reformed community member, and I'm a reformed educator because of knowing all this. So I was able to step back from what I was supposed to do and not strong-arm that little boy into writing what I needed him to write, but to step back and to get him from back here to up here. And it takes a lot of work, and there are obstacles every single solitary day. But every day that I go to bed at night, and I'm self-reflective for my parenting role and my role as an educator and my role as a community member, I ask myself, did I do my best? Am I looking through the right lens? And that's the heart of the matter for me. And every day and every person and every child is worth it by their birthright. They have dignity to be treated with respect as an educator. And so I encourage all of you to go back, take this information, and figure out how you're going to make it work. But don't let a day go by without you imparting these practices into the work that you do in your home and in your school and your community.
We started this with really no money and therefore no leadership, because without money, you can't, we all have full-time jobs, and to be able to be a leader of another major initiative was really too much. The MARC grant has allowed us to hire a director to build the consortia. So the sanctuary model is, trauma-informed is built throughout the whole thing, but it has 7 commitments. That we have a commitment to nonviolence, we have a commitment to social learning, we have a commitment for emotional intelligence. There's 7 total commitments. I won't go into the details regarding them, but it became like the umbrella for which we were to work under. We have 10 of our consortia members that are at the Tier 1 level, which is the understanding, the knowledge behind it. We have 5 that are at Tier 2, which is, it has been incorporated into the values of the organization, not necessarily an easy thing to do. And then Tier 3, which unfortunately none of us have managed to make it to yet, is when policies and procedures and job descriptions and all the written materials are built around trauma-informed care and the Sanctuary 7 commitments. So we're not quite to that point yet, but we are getting there. I think the most important thing that I can leave you with is this is a grassroots effort, started because there's a need in our community. We have been working towards developing a community that is indeed a sanctuary for our youth and our families, and therefore that is our legacy, is to be able to leave our community as a sanctuary to all who live and work there. Thank you.
Can we please give a big round of applause to our 14
All of our
sectors?
speakers. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so
well done.
much.
Well done.